Hi, this is Roger. On Saturday, March 17th, 2018, I will be completing the challenge of hiking all the trails in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. This is better known as joining the 900 Mile Club. I will have over 1,400 miles accumulated on my feet to gain admittance into this club. This video is my story. You may be asking yourself, why would anyone walk 1,400 miles in the mountains? Well, for me, it all begins with inspiration. We're all inspired by something. We all have a small voice that keeps beckoning us back to our passions. I love the smell of the forest as I enter a trail. I love the wind on a mountaintop where my view is blocked by the clouds that give the Great Smoky Mountains their name. I love the sight of the end of a trail when I gave it more than I thought I had. But my inspiration goes much deeper. My son, Nick, and I hike together. We still do, but not in a predictable father-son way. Nick and I hiked the Smoky Mountains together. We climbed Half Dome together. We managed along Crawler's Ledge on the Kalawa Trail in Kauai together. We clamored for oxygen in the Himalayas as a father-son team. Sadly, 7 years ago at the age of 22, my boy passed away. After Nick's passing, it took me 2 years to lace up my boots. I could not bear the thought of hiking without my partner, my only son. John Muir said, "The mountains are calling, and I must go." The mountains called quietly, and I resisted. As the call of the mountains became clearer to me, I laced up my boots with the help of some good friends and took to the trails of the park where Nick and I had spent many days and nights. I couldn't hike the trails that Nick and I shared. The pain was too great. After a few painful hikes, I began to feel beauty again. The smells of the forest spoke to me, and I actually enjoyed the breeze against my face like I thought I never would. After great deliberation and soul searching, my hobby kicked up a few notches, and I set myself the goal of completing the 900 miles of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, with Nick as my inspiration. In March of 2013, I started the effort of completing all the trails. I already had 111 miles completed at that point from my previous hiking experiences in the park dating back to 2004, which I guess means my actual time to complete all these trails is going to be almost 14 years. I was exactly halfway done with my goal when fate intervened on my hiking path again. Back on November 1st, 2014, a little over 3 years ago, the park had an early, heavy, wet, and absolutely beautiful snow. My friend Mark Bond and his son Austin and I decided to just take a short hike to take in the beauty of that picturesque morning. We began our hike on the Ramsey Cascade Trail. Austin, 17 at the time, hiked ahead. I hiked in the middle of the trio. About a quarter of a mile in on a quiet, windless morning, Mark heard the sound. It was a 12-inch diameter chestnut oak tree branch which fell unobstructed between 60 and 80 feet. He yelled, and I looked up. That is one of the many small acts that somehow saved my life. The branch hit me on the face and crushed it. Because it was my face and not the top of my head, traumatic brain injury was kept to a minimum. Through the heroic efforts of Mark, Austin, and the Smoky Mountain Search and Rescue team, the start of a miraculous journey that has me here today began. Mark and Austin worked to get my crushed body out from under the tree branch. Then Austin took off down the trail back to the car to drive the 5 miles to the cell phone range, only to be stopped 1 mile down the gravel road by a tree that had fallen across the road. Austin continued by running down the road until he came across a couple who were out enjoying the snow. They drove him to cell phone range to call 911. Meanwhile, Mark stayed back by my side, protecting my face from the falling snow, while more branches fell nearby. The emergency room at the University of Tennessee Trauma Center gave a report of a full body crush. I remember nothing for about 3 weeks following. I remember only walking onto the trail, the beautiful snow, and then my memory picks up about 3 weeks later in the 3rd hospital. I don't have an official count of broken bones. Most were crushed. One day, the surgeon who rebuilt my crushed hip discussed with my wife how walking may look in the future. I would most probably walk, with pain and assistance, "I know he will hike again. He has to," my wife replied to the physician standing over my bed. "Oh, this man will never hike on a trail again," the surgeon who rebuilt my hip and had repaired my arm replied. It was a short 5 months after the accident that I took my first solo hike back in the Smokies on the Jakes Creek Trail. The Smoky Mountain trails are home to me. I study the trails after a day of work in the factory. I think through strategies of hiking while I drive in the car. The mountains certainly do call me, and I must go. Some have asked me why I push myself. I've been asked countless times why I hike alone after the accident. How could I possibly go back into the woods? I ask myself, how can I not? Hiking is where I spend time with my son. We communicate through the whispers of the trees, the rustle of the streams. No falling chestnut oak tree can take me away from those moments.